Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Brave Indigenous Conversations with Joan Jack. I've yet to write a script to read every podcast, but I did encounter through a nonviolent communications training yesterday a poem that I thought was so amazing, and it's written by Mickey Scotby Jones. So I'm going to start by reading that because until I have my own, I think I'll use hers. Sorry about that sound. And I actually hope my sound works today. Um, okay, hang on. I'm just going to read this piece of writing. An invitation to a brave space. Together, we will create brave space because there is no such thing as safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars, and we have all caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side. So I love that. I just heard it yesterday, so I thought I'd share it with you. I have the pleasure of having, oh, sound is good. Thanks, Lisa. So I have the pleasure of having my lifetime friend as a guest this morning. And it's been my practice. This is only number 4, but it's been my practice that I don't introduce people and I allow them to introduce themselves because that's basically respecting my own culture. We don't generally try to tell people who they are or so I'm going to add Eileen to the stream. There she is. Oh my God, Eileen.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so Eileen, can you start by introducing yourself and don't be humble. Tell
Don't
us
be humble.
tell us who you really are.
Okay, I have to figure out this first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm, I just have to say, I'm Ilene Hart, but I'm sitting here in the presence of you, Joan. And honestly, the older I get, the more I have this chance to sit with someone who I've known for decades, and we have this reciprocal love. I just want to linger in it. I
Oh,
mean, I suppose that's who I am. I just want to linger in it. I feel like there's everything we need to heal in it. I'm not much of a planner or follow through, not that great, but I can feel it.
I feel the love too, Eileen. Yeah.
Yeah, I can feel it.
So
So,
maybe tell us a little bit about, anything. I don't care. Like, tell us who you are. Like, what are you doing these days?
uh, I live in a little condo by the Dreamy Draw Mountain. You and Brian remember that. Brian
Yeah.
said, "That's not a mountain.
Oh my
That's not a
God.
mountain. Is that a mountain? No, that's not. That's a scree slope." But I live here in this sweet place in a big city, not exactly my first choice. Um, and I continue to do the work that I feel like I'm here to do, which is to help people lessen unnecessary suffering. This humaning business
Mm,
that we're engaged in, in each of our own cultural and sexual and um, uh, social and uh, thought formed ways. Um, it's an incredible thing, and it's difficult to be a human. It's just painful. It's I call it bittersweet, but that soothes, the way I'm wired. So I look at life as my challenge is to hold the grief in one hand because it's so real.
mhm.
And I don't mean the grief of losing people I can't live without. That's one thing for sure. but also losing the dreams
Yeah.
and and the youth and so much, right? So the grief is very real, and I want to honor that. I have to honor that. If I don't, I'm blind, right?
Yeah.
But if I only lean into the grief, as is the way with many of the Jewish culture in which I was raised, like if we didn't have something dramatic to share at dinner, we wouldn't get to talk. I mean, really, he with the biggest problem wins. So I mean, it took me decades to even begin to recognize how much unnecessary suffering I was carrying just to be socially not rubbed out. Right. It took me forever to understand that, and then to start to like wrestle it down and realize that I didn't need that for myself. So then on the other, that other hand is gratitude. So for me, in my work, in my life, in what I'm trying to do to connect better with my family, it's grief and gratitude, both, one in each hand.
Aw.
Yeah.
I'm just writing down a couple. I'm learning how to do this. I've never
Yeah. I
been a
mean,
podcaster. It's like, man, one of my heart sisters was saying, well, Susan, Susan, she was saying,
I
I'm
do.
just, I'm just so proud of you. Like you're just being so brave and you're so curious. And I was
Yes.
like, I'm just
Yes.
crazy. Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah.
wrote down the first thing I wrote down. Did you want to say anything more about who you are right now before we move on?
Mostly a human being who seeks, truth and beauty,
No.
you know,
And you
and
are that. And you are that, Eileen. Oh my goodness. And so I wrote down a couple of things that I found interesting that you said. Like you said unnecessary suffering. So do you believe some suffering is necessary?
I do.
Talk about that.
I
Can you
do.
talk about that?
Yes, I believe that grief is maybe primarily the best way we have to show the love that we have felt for an idea that we dreamed, for a relationship that we hoped would be lifelong, for a lost loved one, who has died or become sick. I mean, and that suffering is real, and to skip over it with a kind of false positivity, it doesn't honor it properly. And mind you, it's easy for me to say because I'm wired as someone who, when I went to graduate school, I was quite old. As you
Mhm.
know, I mean, I was just out there doing what the elders told me to do. Well, appointment, you don't need a time. So, all the things, wearing two hats, all the things that I would be brought up in front of the Board of Behavioral Health in Arizona if I did,
Ah,
or the opposite that I was taught to do when I lived in Atlin and had, my that little practice, which was my first. And so those ways felt so much more raw and real to me, right? Than
mm. That was beautiful, Eileen. I mean,
yeah,
I've been saying lately, suffering's optional, like trying to remind myself that
yeah,
in another way of saying, I don't want any unnecessary suffering in my life. It's
right,
optional. I
right.
don't have to suffer. My pain, I remember, I'll just tell a little story before I get to the next thing you triggered in me. One time I seems to be talking about my Auntie Jess a lot. I'll have to call her.
Oh,
Um,
right. I remember.
Oh
Yes.
my god, she taught me so many things in life. She's amazing. And so one time, Auntie Jess called and I was whatever. I was talking about whatever suffering I was experiencing. And she said, "Oh gosh," she said, "I thought you were big enough to let go of your need for pain."
I know, right?
Right? And I just got so mad, and you know me, I swear a lot, and I said a swear word, and I said, "I'll call you back," and I hung up, and I just really processed that, and I've been processing that for well, since then, like, that was, like, 25 years ago or whatever, like, I have a need for pain as a human being. I
Yeah,
have it.
it's
I
part of
have
the human experience, I believe.
can you talk about that, Eileen?
Yes, I
Like,
think
your
so. I
need for
mean,
pain?
I mean, I think it probably is something that I have a fair amount of experience with. I tell people I'm probably good at a couple of things. I can make a wall tent into a home. I like I have to come to the knack, and I mean, I like taking few resources and making it into something that feels really like a nest or something. And also, I am able to live in the bittersweet. So
Mhm.
what it means to me is, uh, um, what do they say in psychology? If you shut down an emotion, it's very likely you're going to shut them all down or dim them to the point where they're not audible anymore,
Mm.
not perceptible. And that is not being fully human. Being fully human to me is wholehearted, which means the mind, which is a trickster, and the body and the heart are all connected in our decision making and in the way we present in the world. They're in sync. We
Uh,
don't just come from one up here, like, many engineers, bless their hearts, that I work with. You must have known some from school, right?
yeah.
They're talking
Lawyers.
the lawyers, yeah, and
Man.
they can be intimidating, right? Because they got a lot of words and they come out really fast, and my frontal lobe overheats because on my Myers-Briggs, I had 2 thinking points, and the teacher said in front of the entire class, Ilene Hart only has 2 thinking points on the Myers-Briggs. Like, that's none. So she can't have a boyfriend and say, and the boyfriend they can't have an argument. And the boyfriend can't say to her, why don't you just think about it and we'll talk in the morning? Because she's not going to think. So I think, honestly, we're all wired differently, but I do believe that something we share in common is
Mm,
that the experience of being a human will bring us to our knees if we're fully present.
mm.
We
Wow.
will have to be on our knees and we will have to find our way up again and again if we're lucky.
Oh,
We
I
have to break open.
yes.
So
Yeah.
that's painful.
Yeah.
We don't get to skip that part. We don't want to get drowned in it either. It's,
No.
you know, yeah,
My
again,
friend, my friend Ann Ball sent me a cup. I have it here. I don't use it because I don't want to lose it. We have a habit of losing coffee cups in our home, but she made this travel mug for me because I have this as my screensaver saver.
oh, wow. Yes.
For those of you only listening, it's a beautiful picture of the phoenix, rising out of the fire, eh?
Yes.
And I
Yes.
too have done that again and again
I
and
know you
again.
have. I know you have.
And each time I do, though, I become more beautiful.
You
Honestly,
absolutely do. More and more
yeah,
beautiful.
I finally.
Even more beautiful than the first time I laid eyes on you, which
Oh,
was at a dance in the Atlin Rec Center when you first came to Atlin.
oh my God, 1991.
Oh, well, was it then? I thought it was
Yeah,
even before then. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
came April 28th, 1991. I drove down the Atlin Road, and the experience of just driving down the Atlin Road brought both my mother and I to tears. We were like so
Thank
EBGB'd out. I was like, "Oh my God, Mom, where are we going? Where are we coming?" And
yeah.
she was crying too. And my mom is a survivor of residential day school, and she doesn't cry as a consequence of her trauma. Like I bet you I've seen my mom cry maybe I don't know, 10 times in my life. Like she doesn't cry. She's freaking hardcore, man. Like she's got control of those emotions.
You
And
just have to leave her. She cooks.
yeah,
She
and she,
makes her,
she
yeah.
was
Oh,
crying though, Eileen, when I looked at her when we were driving on the out, she was tears were coming down her face. And she said, "We've been here before.
yeah.
We're coming home." And I was like, "Whoa, my mom doesn't talk like that either, eh?" So anyway, I love our conversations because they just go all over the place. Go
I
ahead.
know.
What
They
do you
will.
think? What
So,
were you gonna
so I have to just add to that because, first of all, your mom, Stella, like, I carry her in my heart. She had Hilbo, the whole other podcast,
say?
the Hilbo podcast that made us sing R&B, loud as we could in the kitchen while your mother's making little triangles of, what are they, Lebanese?
Yeah,
And
they're originally Lebanese, and we've
yeah,
morphed them into like Ojibwe meat pockets. Like they're res style now. Like their original fataya is very tiny, and ours are like monster meat pockets.
yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, I carry her with me. Yeah,
Oh,
I carry her with me. And she had the most, well, first of all, I would say inclusive, just
mm,
without effort. Stella feels very accessible to me.
Ah,
My
yes.
relationship with you was slightly different. Wouldn't you say?
Talk about that. Go ahead. Be brave.
Oh, it takes brave. I didn't, you made me realize I am brave.
There you go.
Well, I mean, I ran away from this country and immigrated to Canada and took a job no Canadian would take on the Hudson's Bay as a probation and parole officer to leave what was my, I don't know, personal history and what I felt were the in untreatable limitations of that history had just gone so deeply in me. I wanted to get away, right? Um, when I got when I finished my responsibility in Churchill and became a landed immigrant, um, and kept going west, when I got to the Atlan Road, I heard my father's voice in my head, and he
Oh
said,
my.
"Leni, these are your prime earning years. What are you doing?"
That would be my dad too. I think we have the same.
"What are you doing?" I said, "I'm not sure, Dad, but checking out right now. I got to look at this." You know, and I didn't leave. I couldn't really leave. So I
So
remember.
you were going to talk about your experiences of me being different than your experience with my mom.
Yeah,
I
so
want you to know I'm brave too. I can take it, Eileen.
you can do it. I mean, honestly.
Do
So
it.
I remember the nights on the grass outside your place at 5 Mile. Now, I don't know how much of these you remember, but I think I remember every single one.
Oh,
Because these are the kinds of things that I was wired to hold.
mm,
I hold very little. I have a great food memory. I could tell you what we ate. But other than that, like I'm horrible at trivial pursuits. I don't have anything. There's nothing in here. No retrieval. So, but what I remember are those emotional exchanges. And I remember one of the first times we did it, you said to me, "You white people, what is it with you white people? Like you're like one person at your home and you're this other person at your work." And I had never had that kind of feedback. I was like the fish in the water,
mm,
like extractor fish, settler fish. I don't know. I didn't know you're the first person who took the time
mm.
to tell me something that I could not see about myself. And I loved you so much that there was more curiosity than wounding. And it's just been that way with you.
Oh, you're
So
making me cry.
well, me too. I mean, you really uh, made my life expansive and way beyond what I could see with my own eyes. And that's an important thing to know is that, first of all, it's like doing therapy as I do in my work. Without that trust, without that sense of safety, and how you gave me that sense of safety, even though you're very opinionated and your voice is so strong and your language so incredibly powerful, that's the mystery of you. I don't have to know. I just know that's Joan.
It's the love. It's the love.
It was
I'm so filled with love. I know another friend of mine that I hope you meet someday. I did my first episode with her. Our friendship is new. Her name's Shannon Lee,
oh, yeah.
and she was trying to get me to help white people in this particular training program. I said, "Look, I'm done volunteering for white people. Read the books. It's not even my job to educate white people. It's their job to educate themselves." And but we still get that as Indigenous people. You go to an event as an Indigenous person and you're typically the only Indigenous person there. Then everybody wants you to be the Indian expert. And you're like, oh my God, I just came to the party.
Well,
I don't.
yeah. And
Go
they
ahead.
want the fast track. They
Yeah.
want they want like the weekend and you're a yoga instructor. They want yeah, especially if it's with Joan, that should take 15 minutes and we'll be all caught up. Yeah. Meanwhile, we can't even see. We
Oh my
can't see who we are. It's impossible to see. It's like being a fish in the ocean.
Mm,
This is
yeah.
a huge task. It's a huge task, and we have to be able to find ways to do it with people we feel safe with.
Mm. Yeah. So I'm going to note safe, but I want to move to another thing you said that I want to hear what you think.
Mhm.
Um, you said socially rubbed out. What did you mean when you said that? Socially rubbed out. So I wouldn't be socially rubbed out.
I I know about my own family of origin, and because of my work, I've had the privilege of hearing the stories of hundreds, thousands, I don't know how many people's stories of how they were taught when you're down in the first chakra, right?
Mm,
Way down at that,
the root.
spine, the root.
Yeah.
That's where the people who raise us, theoretically, this is Carolyn Mace's challenge. There are billions of ways of looking at everything, as you well taught me. Not just one medicine wheel. Yeah, yeah. Love you so much. I'm sorry, but I just,
Okay.
yeah, I'm not hanging up. Yeah.
No, no.
You're gonna delete me. Um, so being rubbed out for me was reflecting back on my own childhood, where my father had come back from World War II as a Jew, a captain in the army in Europe. He was in a Jeep with his driver, who was he was the first army officer to go into, it was Buchenwald or Auschwitz, the day that it was freed, and Eisenhower was there speaking. And my father, told me a story. Not until I'd worked with soldiers for more than 9 years, but then my father told me the story of that day, and my heart just broke open. So I guess I would say I understand. I was lucky. My mom and my dad lived to very old ages, because it gave me
Mm,
plenty of time to understand why I felt like if I didn't act a certain way, I would be rubbed out. Like, um, like maybe when puppies are born or
mm,
other animals are born, and if you don't fit, if you're not going to be sustainable,
mm,
often you have to be killed. And I
mm,
think that young children who need love, they need affection, they need that softness, they need to know that if a parent leaves the room, that parent is likely to come back, in order to wire up to be able to begin to adult.
mhm,
When that's not there, when there's trouble in the parental home,
mm,
as there were certainly for all the soldiers coming back from World War II, and now still, right, as there are in any disenfranchised, any culture that's been rubbed out
mm.
by others. Life is a mess. There's so many fires to fight, and a newborn doesn't often bring us to our deepest calm. It
Oh,
adds. And so when I say rubbed out, I'm kind of talking like a bad puppy, like a puppy that, just barked too much and was going to keep all the other ones up, and there wouldn't be any milk and they'd all die. So bye-bye.
yeah, yeah. Let's talk about that after. So I want to talk about safety. There's a lot, like, in my life I've noticed, and it's not a big profound thing, but buzzwords go through Indian country,
Mhm.
and so things like lateral violence these days and safety and all of that. And you heard me read that beautiful piece at the beginning about bravery and
Yeah.
how there are no brave spaces, and the concept of we have to have a brave space is being used. I'm going to talk. I'll listen to you first, then I'll talk. What do you think about safety, and what do you think about safety, emotional safety, and whatever?
Well, I think
You
that,
use you use the word, so yeah.
yeah, I do. I actually do think about safety a lot, because as my practice has evolved, people send me more and more difficult and complicated cases of trauma. So I have a young man right now who incurred like 3 close range gunshot wounds to protect his 130 employees at a warehouse. And he happens to be 82nd Airborne retired, but also, Bronze Star recipient. Just very psychologically well organized, but he incurred some serious trauma, and I'm getting a lot of that level of trauma now, because
Mm,
my practice has gone on for long enough that people know that that when they refer someone to me, the one thing that they always get as feedback is, I felt safe. Now
Mm.
that is a perceptual quality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I can be full of love and just, you know, and the other person may not perceive safety. So
Mm.
there's something incredibly organic and important about the way we develop the relationship
Mm.
together.
Mm.
And I'm exploring a new form of therapy. It's called accelerated experiential dynamic psychotherapy, blah, 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 blah. It's another one, EFT, ACT, EMDR, IRS, and I, you know, it's like, yeah, but it's what I like about it is it's completely relational. So it's
Mm.
about how, okay, this couch that you're moving, Joan, it's like, it's way too heavy for one person. So
Mm.
I'm with you.
Mm.
Let me help you.
Mm.
Like, I don't have to say anything, but I'm here. And it's relational. And in studying this new form of therapy, I hired an ADAP, a certified ADAP therapist. So I'm getting my own personal therapy doing
Mm.
the same thing. And one of the keys to doing that is effective trust building, so
Ah.
that the client can perceive enough safety
Mm.
to quiet the nervous system. And this really comes from nervous system studies, right?
Mm.
You know how we talk about treating trauma, we can treat it from the top down, which means we use things like cognitive behavioral and how your thoughts, particularly the self-referencing negative thoughts,
Mm.
how your thoughts affect the creation of your moods. Now, I'm not very new agey, so I don't think I'm going to think it, I'm going to feel it. My sense is that there's a whole lot of mystery in that dance, but
Yeah.
I do have a strong feeling that the thoughts I'm thinking about myself are co-creating my mood.
Ah.
And
Yeah.
so that's top down. But the thing that we have only recently begun to realize about trauma and safety building is that the processing also has to be bottom up, which means body work.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
means being able to identify those caught, trapped memories, which are actually sensations because of the way they get wired in. They don't
Yeah.
get wired in a thought place. They get wired in.
Your body.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
So then, you know, the people who are living up here are not necessarily going to be comfortable exploring the body. So
Right.
safety, however that person defines it, you know, for me, the joy of what I get to do is to go and visit someone I don't know at all. I
Mhm.
suspend disbelief and I just go visit where he lives or where she lives, and I
Ah.
ask permission. Can you teach me what it's like being you?
Ah.
Because I can't know.
Yeah.
And in that approach, people do soften a bit, and they do tend to tell me, you know, what their triggers are and how they feel safe and the tone of voice that works for them. And
Oh, that's so beautiful.
yeah, if I'm not pausing enough, I learned from one of my mentors, Irvin Yalom, to stop in the middle of a session and say, how am I doing?
Ah.
Right. At first I thought that's pretty egotistical, but then I thought, like you,
Yeah.
from you, I think I'll try it. I like his work so much, I think I better try it. So
Oh my God.
does that
So
help? Yeah.
yeah. No, I wanted to share. You know, I love you. I love hearing I wish we need to be more deliberate about. We're both the same in that we're not that organized. And so we maybe need to organize like even once a month where we will have you on the Zoom and we'll check in. We'll do a Joan Eileen monthly check-in, you know?
I remember when you told me
Go ahead.
you told me how in your community in Barons River, that people would name a trait after a person,
Yeah.
like, oh, you know, I know what, if I pulled a Joan. I mean, if somebody told me I pulled a Joan, first of all, I would feel kind of smug because I'm not sure I'm capable really of pulling a Joan. I'm probably not. But also, I remember Brian telling me that it was an Eileen to drive in my old Honda down the Warm Bay Road with my shoulders hunched up in my head, almost over the steering wheel, like over. I overdo everything. He says, "Oh yeah, I saw you pulling an Eileen over there on the road."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I wanted to share a bit about safety and how it impacts me. And the original way I was going to talk about it is gone now. I don't even remember. But listening to you share, and how people describe being with you as safe. My life is still very extreme, Eileen. I'm kind of at a place where, if that's just what it is, that's just what it is. There's nothing wrong. I'm not wrong. It's just the way it is. And so my life is still very extreme. People love me like you love me, or they can't stand me. And so, um,
And
I'm
if they can't stand you, now they can't stand me. What's that about?
but so I'm at a place in my life. I'm 62 now, and you hear the everyday sayings like, as you age, I don't give a shit what people think and all that. But I still see a lot of people aging and responding to outside opinions, and conforming and whatever. And then, we have others. I'm so blessed to have my mom still in my life who does not conform at all.
Right.
And I love that. I mean, she's a trailblazer. And my dad, 100% nonconformist, so I've had lots. And Brian,
Oh,
people think that I control him because he occurs differently than me in the world.
oh,
uh,
not
Not at all. He's
who would
like
control Brian?
nobody. He's
Nobody. Yeah.
like Atlan Mountain. And so, so I'm surrounded by, and by the way, I've now raised children who are uncontrollable. It's like, what? I wanted to teach you about boundaries, but not when it comes to me. Excuse me, those boundaries don't apply to me.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. That could be the
It's
problem I'm having. Yeah.
it's horrible. Anyway, whatever.
That could be why when Mother's Day was not well attended.
Oh. Kill me. Oh my God. Anyway, I'll try to
Oh,
focus.
what just happened
Too
here?
much laughing on that brave podcast thing. Um, so what I was gonna say was, I know people feel safe with me because I have so many people that I love and love me. When I finally decided to do the podcast, I said to Brian, I'm never going to run out of guests.
You will never.
I just know so many people that I just love and respect and admire, and each conversation will be what it is. And and yeah, so I know that, and I guess I am still um, impacted by those who don't love me, because where I'm at is I'm wanting to learn how, at an energetic level, not to let that in and deter me from my path and my life, and to just give people permission to not like me. It's okay. It's okay. I'm okay that you don't like me.
Yes.
And even if I'm just saying that to myself. And so I'm just figuring this all out right now. So, because for years it was, making people wrong and othering them, and, trying to protect myself and smudging 10 times a day. And, not to say that there aren't things going on at the spiritual level that we should protect ourselves against. But like you said, I'm
Right.
not new agey. That's not my area of expertise. Well, I'm sure I'll have a guest on who does know a lot about,
I hope so.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, who does know a lot about, working in that realm with that energy. I
Right.
don't. But so I'm at a place now where I still believe that love is the answer, that love is always the answer. And it just is like I have to find, and now I'm working on finding the love for myself.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's like the last frontier, like it's so much easier to help you and be loved by you and get that approval from outside,
Yes.
because I'm a good person, I'm a kind person. And
Yeah.
so, to be learning to do boundaries at like 62 is kind of, well, I'm a late bloomer, but
So long as you're blooming,
as long as I'm blooming, yeah.
you'll
So
bloom long after we cease to see you.
So that's where I'm at now, is trying to learn, wanting to learn about uh the emotional sobriety that is required
Yeah.
to not allow that energy to impact me on a daily basis, even in my marriage. Poor Brian, he's been married to me 30 years. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about myself, but I was always like, are you okay? And he'd be
Yeah.
like, yeah. And I'd be like, oh, well, you look mad, you look angry.
You're
And then
almost
and
expecting
then,
it.
yeah, yeah, and then he'd be like, no, I'm not angry. And I'm like, well, tell your face, because it's really angry. Poor guy, so
Yeah.
learning to communicate and learning to let him have his space and me have my space. It's a miracle we're still married. It's a miracle. 30 years. It's a miracle. It's
I
love.
mean,
It's not a miracle. It's
it
love.
it was love from the
I know,
start.
right?
And it just seemed like, well, you think about it, he's Henry Tacker Jack's son,
There you go.
right?
Yeah. Some pretty
And
good
that
lineage there. Yeah.
was a legend, right?
Pretty good lineage there.
Pretty good lineage,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and
And
we're
yeah.
growing. Like, the thing that has helped our marriage is that we made a decision way early on. Well, I lead most of the discussions unless we're in the bush, then he does it. But, and saying that let's just agree that we're going to continue to grow and work on our personal traumas. And sometimes he comes to things with me, like training stuff or whatever,
Mhm.
and most of the time he doesn't, but he's got his own process, and I respect that.
Yeah.
And so, but on a day, it's in the daily living where the challenge is, when you're sharing control and response, where I am sharing control and responsibility with another human being,
Mhm.
where my challenge is,
Yeah.
that I need to be open. I started this thing that you know all about, but nonviolent communication. Marshall wrote, another Jewish man. Is he Jewish? Rosenberg? Am I making a racist assumption?
Go ahead. We can use him.
Okay.
We'll take anyone you can get.
So he developed this nonviolent communication model about 25 years ago. That's kind of, I heard about it long ago, but learning about how to process our relationships. And that's actually where I want to come back to, is about relationship and safety, but how to process our relationships with tools, with speaking tools and ideas, so that we actually end up deeper connected,
Mhm.
as moving through conflict or
Mhm.
working with conflict, eh? And
Mhm.
so, and I'll just end with this around. And so I don't even know why I brought up NVC, but anyway, whatever. Oh, they were talking about safety there too. That's why, I guess. But the safety, I forgot it. Okay, your turn. I forgot what I was going to say. Mrs. Nyman would say, "Hey," Mrs. Nyman would say, one time I was visiting with her, and she said, "Oh, it went right through my head."
Well, have another cookie.
And then, but
Just have a couple of cookies, right?
in that moment, she
Yeah.
taught me that all the knowledge exists outside us.
Well,
And
I
we're a
believe that.
conduit, eh? We're a conduit.
Yeah,
And if it stays, we're lucky.
yeah, it's a gift, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I mean, these
Okay,
people with
you go.
retrieval, where
I know.
they know they've got a joke in there that is perfect for this moment.
Yeah.
I don't even get how they work. They kind of scare me.
I wanted to another thing you said made about the collective values and the rubbing out and all that, and then you sort of moved into parenting and the child needs love and all that. I think, and it's been my personal experience as a parent, that the buzzwords these days are my, like, colonial experience of my ingenuity and all that stuff. Um, really struggling with parenting, because the rule oriented uh, style of parenting that, right or wrong, I believe came from the colonial process and comes from the colonial process, is the one that we primarily use in our communities now. And at the same time, I've spent enough time out on the land with Brian and out on our land, parenting our children in a land, like a dangerous land situation. Like, even 5 Mile. I mean, grizzly bears are starting to wake up. Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
in that kind of situation, or on the trail, like, I never allowed the children to walk in front of their father, ever, because several reasons. Respect, we say we have respect. So how are your kids ever going to learn to demonstrate that value if you don't teach them that as a parent, you
Yeah.
know? And so on the land, there's a great requirement on the land living, causes a great requirement for um, unquestioned respect for leadership. And it's not that there's not an opportunity to question leadership, but not while your life could be in danger. You know, when we stop for lunch, if you have any questions, that's when you ask dad. He
Yes.
might, he may or may not even answer you, because
Yes.
we don't teach through the Socratic method that our children are all indoctrinated. You know, my poor children, like they would go to school and, put your hand up, put your hand up, put your hand up, jump in, jump in, jump in, more colonization. And then they would get home and I'd be doing something. They say, what are you doing? What are you doing, mom? Shh, shh, just be quiet and watch.
Yeah. And
That's
that's a being quiet.
Let me just end with this and then I want to listen to you.
Mhm.
I was so shocked when my mom stopped cooking in our home here, which was like not, it was recently actually, like, like she was the head cook in our home for 20 years while we raised all our kids. And so I was her helper, like sometimes, mostly not even, because I was busy earning money and doing other stuff. But when I was helping, I just helped. And I was so shocked that when she stopped the head cook, I could actually cook
Because
really well.
because guess what? You were watching.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Amazing. I was like, what the hell? I know how to do this.
You were
Yeah.
watching.
And
And
I didn't ask one question. I just did what she said. Go get that pan, go get this, wash this now, put paper on that, like, yeah. So you go, Eileen.
I mean, do you think that I'm having trouble with the camera because I want to look at you, but the camera doesn't let me.
Oh,
It's got
don't
one
worry about it.
side.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
weirdo. That's
I'll
weirdo.
just look at you with this. Oh, I can't even do that. This eye. They're both loving eyes.
Don't give me the witchy eye. Just don't give me the witchy eye.
Oh yeah, I don't know the witchy eye, but I plan on learning it.
Okay, because my mom
Never
could
too
teach you.
late.
My
Yeah.
mom could teach you. You could call her up and do video FaceTime and she'll teach you how to do the witchy eye.
Oh,
I learned mine from her.
Kelly, you remember me. I have problems. I know you're busy.
Like
Can you
kids,
squeeze me in for a 15-minute witchy eye consult?
people would say to
That
me,
would be
remember we had 6 kids and they were all like a daycare, one after the other. And people would say, oh my goodness, elders would come up and say to me, your kids are so good at the potlatch. You do good job, And I was so proud and honored. And then somebody else said to me one time, how do you do that? I said, witchy eye, man. Like my kids all knew what the witchy eye was.
I need the witchy eye, but I there is very likely and ought to be, I'm sure, like a kind of a protocol before you get the witchy eye consult. Like I don't think you can just go in after not having seen Stella for 20 years and ask for a witchy eye consult. It
Well,
feels like
you might actually get the witchy eye, and
yeah.
then and
Oh,
then
she would just show me the witchy eye. Yeah. I would get
you
the
might
witchy eye.
you might demonstrate the witchy eye, and then you could have the consult.
It's a backward way, but I like it. You're strategizing for me. Thank you. It's
Yeah.
my weak spot. Yeah.
Okay. So, what about the parenting and the
I want
collective
to know.
versus individual?
Yeah,
Any thoughts on
I'm
that?
curious because it seems to me from what I experienced in my years in Atlin, uh, that if everyone didn't help with dishes
Mm,
and if we didn't all then sit on the floor,
mm,
then Mom Jack would not tell a story. There would not be a story. There would be no argument. There just would be no story.
huh,
She was not going to give it.
mhm,
As she was not going to share songs with just anybody and maybe many with nobody. There
mm,
were rules and they didn't need, like consequences, particularly. They were just kind of written in deeply so that
mm,
people just knew how to do it. And I guess when you talk about things like being in the bush and how the kids need to slow down. They
mm,
need to get quiet. They have to be able to hear.
mm,
And many of them, well, where I live, they're growing up with tablets. They couldn't even see a car coming necessarily.
yeah,
Right? Where
yeah,
you are, tablets or not, I don't know, but I'm wondering, do you consider this to be a traditional style of
Um,
parenting? This, we have rules here.
yeah,
We're not going to try to explain everything in detail,
yeah,
in a
yeah.
philosophical way. This is for your own safety, and you just do it because this is the way it's done.
Yeah, that's been my lived experience. I obviously don't speak for anybody but myself, but that's been my lived experience is that when I'm a part of a collective, really, like
Yeah.
I'm a part of a whole, one part of the whole, I have to look like we used to have debates with my kids as they grew older, like the difference between equality and equity.
Mm,
Like equality is flows in my understanding flows from individual rights, and
mm,
if I see the world only as an individual, then my individual rights are primary, and then I get in conflict with you
yeah,
because our individual rights are bumping.
yeah,
If collective rights are primary, then my individual rights are exercised within the context of that collective.
yeah.
And so if the collective isn't, I'll tell another story. Oh boy, hope she does. I'm kind of, you think I'm tough. I'm kind of, my cousin Nidra, if she listens to this, I hope doesn't remember, and I hope doesn't panic slap or witchy eye me. But um
I'm gonna get it too, realize that.
yeah,
Okay,
and or
you
my
be
friend,
kind.
my friend Eileen.
You'll
So
be
one time she was talking about, and we're grappling with this indigenous in indigenous country about the role of women, which is also similar to the clash between individual and collective.
Yes, it is, yeah.
So the role of women, and she's a powerful singer, powerful woman, amazing. I want her to be a guest. So anyway, we were talking many years ago, and she really can sing. Oh my God, she can sing. And she can sing country music, and she can sing traditional music or traditional music, country music. She's so powerful. And she said, I don't like it that, women can't sit at the big drum like Anishinaabe. Like women don't generally sit at the big drum.
Right, right.
And the women stand at the back side of the drum and sing a higher supporting frequency is
Mm,
how it occurs for me. And then I said to her, well, I don't think anybody's telling you not to sit there. And
yeah,
I honestly don't think if you pulled up a chair that the men, maybe you'd come to men who were not well or something, but it would be so un-Anishinaabe for anyone to interfere with your expression of your individuality. It's just that there are consequences. So I think the men would probably move over and make room for you at the drum, or maybe not. Maybe the drum leader would, wave his drumstick and say no.
but
I don't
they
know. But the point is of debate is that you have to take that initiative.
yeah.
And then maybe someday they will tell the story of the time when, this brave Anishinaabe woman changed our collective culture.
I
And so,
believe that it's like Rosa Parks,
ah,
not
ah,
going to the back of the bus.
ah,
Someone made that brave choice, and that made a huge
in the
difference.
world.
Not enough of a difference, but a
So I just want to finish the story though, because it's got a really good ending.
yeah, yeah,
So I had that conversation with Nidra, I don't know, 20 years ago. And
yeah.
then maybe 5 years ago, I'm not sure. Recently, I walked up to the powwow at Broken Head Ojibwe Nation in Manitoba, and oh my God, Eileen, I heard women singing at a big drum. I was just freaking blown away. They're
Oh,
from Sandy Bay First Nation in Manitoba, two sisters, and then they have other singers at their drum. And you can tell uh, that it's different, you know?
yes,
But
yes.
no one's saying to them, you can't do that. And their drum is so powerful. Like they are so powerful. And there's still going to be people that say women don't sit at the drum, you know?
There
There are
are.
still people that say black people shouldn't ride on the same buses as white people, except they don't say that out loud, much where I live anyway. They pretend they don't think that.
It's a little louder here. Plus, they pack guns. Yeah.
Not
No,
even funny. God, eh?
no,
Yeah.
no.
So, I mean, inside the collective, it's not that an individual doesn't have the right to express themselves. They have the responsibility to take responsibility for expressing themselves within the collective.
That's what you taught me. I mean, you taught me a whole foundation. I tell people, you taught me more than I learned from my family of origin.
Oh my God, Eileen.
No, Joan, I know that sounds, but you know what? I was thirsty.
Oh,
I was not young, but I was pretty hollow. And I
oh,
was thirsty for truth. I was thirsty not to have to be something for someone, but
ah,
to be a better person.
mm,
And you gave me that guidance, and when you gave that guidance in this story about the drum,
mm,
you suggested really something quite simple but powerful. Clarify.
mm,
Check it out.
mm,
If we let our anxiety prevent us from doing the thing we're wondering about, we never get to find out how
mm,
it would turn out.
mm,
And as this was unlikely to be seen as an aggressive act.
mm,
You knew her, you probably wouldn't have suggested that. I mean, it's always, if one has it,
mm.
useful to check it out. It can be way more useful than just for the self.
Well, I want to quote my dad here. He used to say, Scruff, he'd say, make a damn decision. Because I never used to fix my hair when I was a kid, and I didn't wear shoes either. I used to throw my shoes away on the way to school. After we moved off the island in 71, I used to throw my shoes in the bush and come home with those shoes, and I'd be in such trouble. So he said to me, Scruff, make a goddamn decision,
Yeah.
because indecision will kill you, you know?
Yes.
And that's what
Yes.
we're talking about, eh? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
On the other hand, indecision is the key to flexibility.
There you go. Oh,
Right? There are always those
turn
underpinning
that, turn
possible
that,
truths
turn
too,
turn that kaleidoscope, and the picture will change.
which
Or,
makes things not that
or,
simple.
or move your position in the circle. Just
Exactly.
move a little bit to the right or left, and see
Exactly.
what it looks like from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to keep it to an hour, and we've got like 7 minutes left. This flew by, Eileen. Unbelievable. So I'd like to give you the opportunity to share some closing thoughts or feelings or whatever.
I I have a personal question,
Oh,
and it's personal to me,
okay.
and I do feel safe to ask it, uh,
Mm,
uh, because I'm just picturing you and me here.
mm.
I don't know how I don't have that kind of psyche where I can entertain much more than do. We're here. We didn't get our sleepover last night. I didn't get the matching
Yeah,
PJs with the feet in
yeah,
them, but we're
yeah.
definitely here, and I can feel it so deeply and so much. I I'm just wondering about the estrangement that I'm experiencing, and I know a lot of Anglo people who come to me. They're not primarily my practice, but who come to me, usually women, and are disenfranchised from their daughters, their grandchildren. And I have some African American clients, men only at this moment in time. But I've asked one of them, so how do you welcome a grandmother? Like, is it annoying? Is it what is it for you? And he said, no, that's a grandmother.
Mm,
My mother calls from Maryland every single day. And I
mm,
grab my three little boys who are under 4, and I
mm,
pull them away from what they're doing to come and sit in front of Skype and spend some time with grandmother, because that's the way we do it.
mhm.
And I know this is true by the stories that you
Yeah,
tell. And I don't see that very much in the
mm,
culture in which, you know,
yeah.
I live.
Well, for I think a couple of things popped to the front of my presence here. Like, I don't talk to my mom that often, so much. I talk to her so little these days that when I called her out of the blue the other day, she was surprised, and she said, "Oh, you know," and I said to her, "Oh God, Mom, I'm so sorry." I said, I know you know I love you." She said, "I know you love me from the bottom of your heart.
Yeah.
I'm good." And so we had a little talk, and but what occurred to me when you were sharing was that um, it's been easier for me to be close with my mother and my children when we're in the same proximity. Like we're in the same city or same
Yeah.
effort, like we're all working towards the Nakana call, or we got all our shoulder all to the same truck that's stuck in the ditch, like we have purpose in common,
Hmm.
we have place in common. And when that is occurring, like my daughter Shirley lives here in Atland, I see her every day. And if I don't see her, I text her and go like, I miss you. When are you coming over? And she'll be like, oh God, Mom, I'm busy, but maybe tomorrow or later or whatever. And so, or maybe she just doesn't even answer me. Lots of times she just doesn't even answer my text. And so, and then I give her the witchy eye when she comes in. And so,
Can you do
and
that one more time, just slowly?
then, no, you have to learn it for yourself. Everybody's witchy eye is their own.
Oh, mine's
and,
going to be good.
and my daughter Amelia also lives in Atland, but she lives down the hill.
Yeah.
And neither one of us are very athletic, So, but when we do see each other, it's beautiful. We spend time, whatever. And then Lonnie lives in two provinces away,
Yeah, I
and
know.
we do talk a lot over FaceTime and texting. But I think for me, the real answer, what I'm learning in terms of my children's willingness or ability to have me in their life is I have to dial the Joan way down.
Yeah.
I have to dial the Joan
Thanks for that. Yeah.
almost to off,
Yeah.
because as a mother, it's not really about me, it's about
Yeah.
them, you know and
Yeah.
so, well, I'll just end with this. My daughter Lonnie, she just gave me a big bannock slap when she was up here, and I love Lonnie. Like, I would kill you if you hurt Lonnie, like, don't get me wrong. But she's a mini Joan, and
Oh,
so
no kidding.
I'm becoming her own Lonnie. But
Yeah.
she said to me, Mom, I don't know how to say this because I know you're going to get upset. And I said, well, I'll just say it anyway. I'll get over it, or whatever I said in the moment. And she's one of those ones with 100% recall. Like, she could recall word for word, and so that's trouble for people like me and you. But anyways, my experience of that moment was just say what you got to say. And she said, when I'm visiting you, I don't really want to spend my limited time listening to you complain about your health
Okay.
and how tired you are.
Hmm.
And it impacted me. I was like, wow, how did I raise such a selfish kid? And so then I said to her, Lonnie, what I need from you right now is support. And she said, no, you need the support from me that I can give. And I'm not the one to give you the support that you're asking for. I came here all the way, left my 3 kids and husband, set up the internet down Nakanoc, did all this stuff for you for 4 days because I love you. And I was like, okay, got it.
Got it.
And so as we were walking into the superstore in Whitehorse, I said to her, oh my God, I'm such a like blockhead sometimes. I have to summarize things to short, succinct sentences from it to get in.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I said to her, what you want me to do is basically, when I'm around you, is suffer in silence. And
Yeah.
then we both laughed our heads off because I can do that, and without making it a like, oh, poor me or whatever. And she clarified yesterday, because I've started ending our conversations on text with hashtag suffering in silence. And then she said, just let me clarify. I don't want to hear you complain about the same problem that you've had for the last 10 years. If you've got new suffering, I'm probably open to that.
Oh, bless her. Well, she's teaching you how to love her.
Well,
That's
yes.
a
And
great,
that's what it
great
is. I
frame for
want
her.
to learn. I'm
Yeah.
open to learning
That's a great
from
frame.
those I love,
Yeah.
to teach me how to love them.
Yeah.
And she gave me a beautiful Mother's Day gift that I like, that she thought about what would mom like, and
Oh,
bought me something I would like.
yeah.
And that's evidence of her love. Whereas people buy you a gift that they like and say, "Oh, don't you like this? I just love it." I'm like, "Well, then you have it."
I think evidence of her respect is in the way
Uh,
she
uh,
communicates,
oh yeah, we're
right?
we're
I mean, she's got, yeah, she has
yeah,
that foundation,
yeah.
that integrity
So,
and humor, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
she's accessible and,
Humor's key, humor's key. Yeah,
yeah,
humor's key. Yeah.
yeah,
And,
but
the other thing is, l- letting go of being right has been my life mission, and so in every single moment where I experience conflict, what's my job? Drop it. let Drop it. Let go of being right. Let
Especially
go.
when you think you're especially righteous.
Oh yeah.
That
Or even it's worse when you are right.
I hate that part. Yeah, choose peace over what? Moi? Struggling my whole life to get this moi right. Okay.
All
Yeah.
right. So I'm going to make my concluding comments. You're welcome to stay, please, and then I'll end the whole thing. So I've decided I wasn't brave enough to do this in the first 3 episodes, but Brave Indigenous Conversations is all about earrings. So these earrings are, I have an earring addiction. So these earrings were beaded by Becky Ann, and you can find her on Facebook. I
Becky.
think just searching Becky Ann. And I know it's the spirit she puts into her beading. Like a lot of the beading she does is same as other beading you would find elsewhere. But every time I wear Becky Ann's beading, people stop me. They're like, even like this is a very unusual design, so I get stopped a lot when I wear these. But a
Ah,
lot of her beading is common, like usual indigenous beading. Even when I wear that beading, people say, "Oh, your earrings are so beautiful." So today
yeah,
I'm wearing Becky Ann.
they really are.
I
They
love
really
them.
yeah.
And that's one of my favorite words in Ojibwe. Kukuku'u is how you say oh. Kukuku'u.
Kuka'u.
There you go. Yeah, it's owl. And
Ooh, I
so
like that for
yeah,
owl. It sounds a bit like owl, doesn't it?
yeah. And
Yeah.
so the other last thing I'd like to say is you can see on the bottom left, and I apologize for my name being over your head. I have to figure out how to move that. That's my
Oh,
brand.
I
Yeah.
like it.
Okay.
I can get it in my mouth. I have no spatial organization, so
You're so crazy. Uh,
I'll think
so
a terrible astronaut. Yeah, I'm not
you'd
going
be
for that
great.
anymore.
You'd be great because you're floating, Eileen.
That's true. I do float
Yeah,
around.
you'd
Yeah,
be
easily.
great.
Yeah.
So on the bottom left, I have the website link for my husband and I's life work, which is the Nakana Call. And Susan Carlick's son Joseph is down there with our son Henry right now. Susan had the idea they should go in and open up camp. So this was the first time the next generation is taking over. Amazing. And
Uh-huh.
Melanie's joining us again this year, so she can help me in the kitchen. So we're
Lovely.
heading, and I would love everyone listening to go to www.nakinaCall.com, www.nakinaCall.com, and look at what we're doing. And if you feel it in your heart to become a friend of the Nakana Call, then there's a donate button there. You could make a donation, whatever amount you want. And if you want your money to go towards the work we're doing and you believe in the work we're doing, then you need to hit that button because we're we're doing our best. Okay, I'm gonna end it, Eileen, or we could talk all day. I love you.
I love
You'll
you.
have to come back soon.
I
Bye.
will. Love you. Love all of you.